It is episode 184 of the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob, and with me, as always, is the great
Carcass John.
And
today I am Scott. Yes, I am related to Muddy Waters.
Perfect. Well, let's get the business out of the way. We do have a sponsor, and I'm going to show you the video right now. Our sponsor is MediaTek. They're at mediatek.edu. If you want to get into all things mixing, mastering, audio engineering, video production, and all that kind of stuff, this is the place to do it. Listen right now.
I'd say here the advantage is the teachers. The advantage is that they work in this industry every day. And they have been for 30, 40 years, some of them. I myself have been doing this for over 30 years. And I think that's the advantage. We know how to teach people how to do things, and better than most, if you're just a teacher and not in this industry, I think that's the immediate advantage is just the personnel we have here, period. They're veterans.
Yes, they are. That is, for those of you that don't know, that is the great Sterling Winfield. And he is probably talking to Kerry Crafton, and those dudes have produced Pantera, Rigor Mortis, Dead Horse, the Nixons, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, legit pedigrees on those dudes. So check out mediatek.edu if you're interested in anything AV, engineering, mixing, all that kind of stuff. Also, a couple of notes. Thanks again to Deep Dallas Radio for allowing us to broadcast on their Facebook page. And you can check out the Carcass every Friday at 6 o'clock with the Crypt, featuring all the things guttural and screaming and headbanging. And it's a fantastic show every Friday at 6 o'clock. Check out the Crypt featuring Carcass John. We are off next week. We will not be here on the 4th of July. So we're going to take a little vacation, and we will be back the following Tuesday, barring incident. And I also don't want you to forget, you can follow me on Instagram at Metal Rob's Records, where I will wear you out with the stuff I'm selling in my record store. You can follow Scott Waters by just going to YouTube and searching Scott Waters. You can search No Life Till Metal. And you can go follow the Carcass on Instagram at Carcass John Art. I am pleased to report that we are all well, present, accounted for. Circus, give us a quick update on the Metal Queen, and then let's go around the horn.
Well, the Metal Queen is doing quite well. She actually took her child to lunch today and drove for the first time on her own.
I shut my door. I forgot.
So that's a good sign. She's still a few weeks out from going back to work, but is healing nicely and getting stronger. And we actually got out this weekend and went to a backyard party over at a friend's house, and it was a wild event. Anything featuring Scott Shelby, is going to be over the top and probably insane. And fortunately, no 5-0 was involved. And Mark Fields, the advantage to MediaTek is they're our sponsor. That's the advantage. And we know those guys, and they're pretty cool. That's the only advantage that I can think of. And yes, Tony
Clem. You the advantage. The advantage is they've got people that are experienced with a million years working in the industry.
Yeah, like you, Mark.
You need to listen.
You've been around a while yourself, so you should probably work there at MediaTek. And by the way, Tony Clem, yes, Insect Warfare. This is an unusual shirt. This is, I think, limited to one of 40. But anyway, and I've got your full terror assault thing. I had to redraw the black and white, but I'll have it to you here by the weekend. Anyway, that's all I have. Yep, Steph is doing great, and she's very appreciative of our support and all the support of those out there that not only donated, but just gave her a shout out on social media and whatever. And but she's doing fine.
I've seen her in person, and I've given her a couple of nice hugs.
Yes, but far be it from me to blow her a kiss when she chimes in. Yeah, What's good for the goose is good for the gander. But
That's true. Scooter, what's going on with you, brother?
Oh, did I show you guys this last week?
yes, you did, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the deal. I thought this was the album that was released two years ago called Switzerland Manifesto, but you'll notice it's actually Switzerland Manifesto Mach 2 with the same exact cover. And when I showed you this, I hadn't listened to it yet. I'd only heard the CD. I put this on. It's a whole new album. So this is a brand new album with the same cover. It's part 2 of the CD only that came out a couple years ago. So this is a 2023 brand new Joe Perry release. And if you like the first 2 Joe Perry project albums, he's right back to that just classic hard rock, greasy guitar sound.
And letting the music do the talking, I would
basically.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I just thought I'd say that because when I showed this last week, I'm pretty sure I said it was the album. It was the final release from a couple years ago, but it still hasn't been released on vinyl yet from a couple years ago.
Shocking.
Bummer. Yeah, you'd think that would be an easy sell.
Yeah, you'd think.
But who knows? Especially with them touring right now all over the world on their farewell tour.
Oh, that's right. They are on their farewell tour, huh?
They sure are.
And I'm sure tickets are cheap. I'm sure tickets are cheap for that too, right? Like Metallica, because it's not a money grab. But by the way, I was going to tell you, our buddy Henry Vasquez just got back from Europe. Little stint over there, where Legions of Doom, featuring members of the Skull and Trouble and Corrosion of Conformity and so forth, played to the masses over there. And he said he saw the new rendition of Pantera, and he said they were absolutely spot on, just crushing, just killing it out there. He said they are missing the vibe of the Abbott brothers, which I guess you probably would if they're not present. But he said it's a pretty quality rendition of what Pantera is all about. So if you've got those expensive tickets to go see him with Metallica, and that's coming up here pretty quick, isn't it, Rob? In our area, they're playing Jerry's World, Cowboys Stadium.
Isn't it sometime in August? I really don't know.
It's sometime in August, and I noticed just the other day, and TJ seconded this, Tribal Gaze, 200 Stab Wounds, and somebody else is playing the side stage there. You have to have a Metallica ticket to get on site, but they have like a little side stage set up, and some brutal, I think even Creeping Death is playing some heavy local bands. 200 Stab Wounds, I think, is from Ohio, but Tribal Gaze and Creeping Death are local bands. But so they've expanded that thing into something even bigger. But anyway, in case you haven't seen the whole rendition and you're holding on to a ticket, there you go.
Have you guys? I have not picked up anything new. I know we always talk about that kind of at the front of the show, but man, I've been dreadfully quiet in buying stuff. Have you guys picked up anything in the last week or so? I mean, Scott showed the Joe Perry thing, but
yeah, I picked up
a show before we get into it.
I picked up. I don't know if you're familiar with a band called King Buffalo. They're like a power trio, a la Elder or Mothership or Wofat or one of those bands. I really dig them. They kind of have a heavy ambient sound, and I just picked up their first demo on vinyl. I ordered it like 6 months ago, and it finally came in. And then no, I guess I've been the new Creeping Death. I picked that up. That thing's unbelievably heavy, but I've been pinching pennies, as you well know. There's been a lot more going away from the collection than coming into the collection, but that's okay. You know, it's record collecting is a cyclical thing. You know, one day you'll wake up and say, you know what, I just need to get rid of all this stuff. And then you slowly but surely get it all back at some point in time.
Brian McFadden's got jokes. That's funny.
Yep. Hey, you know what?
I'm a Cowboy fan, but that's funny.
So, hey, Scott, that thing is killer.
I don't have that yet.
Yes. Okay, so I went to see them a couple weeks ago, and this has kind of been on the back burner, but they were fantastic. So I was actually watching the band play, and I'm like, yep, got to get that. So I went on. I was literally watching the band play and ordered this vinyl online.
Isn't that like the like what Testament did with First Strike Still Deadly, where they just re-recorded kind of their songs off their first couple
a
albums?
little confused on the whole thing, because if you read the back, it says Great American Music Hall, San Francisco, Saturday, May 22nd, 2021. So it makes it sound like it's a live album. It's not a live album though. So
No,
I think it's they probably just recorded the songs live.
That's correct. In a big
So-
kind of like I was just reading about this the other day. That Creator had done something, that Enemy of God record. They had done something similar to that. Just gone into
the Chaos album. What was it called?
Hordes of Chaos.
Yeah, you go. Hordes of Chaos. That
Yeah.
one was recorded like that. Just
Okay.
completely live.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it. this Death Angel super tight. But
Dude, I've got the tape, and I need to pick up the vinyl on that. That's worth having.
I when it first came out, I didn't see any vinyl. All I saw was cassette and CD. So I waited a little while.
No, I think that's
vinyl.
a fairly recent release.
Yeah, when did it come out? 2023, right? Or is it end of 22? I don't know. Recently.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out. Those dudes have been putting out nothing but punishing greatness for the past.
Yeah, and it's basically like a greatest hits of their first 5 albums or so.
Oh, okay.
It's good, but it's re-recorded. It's like
it's not even greatest hits though. It's like it's all deep tracks. There's no it's. I mean, actually, I think it says it on there. It's just a sticker somewhere on here. It's like these are all deep cuts. 15 deep cuts. Yep, it says so right on the sticker.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
2020. It came out in 2021 originally.
Yeah, on tape and on CD.
Awesome.
Yep, CD. And,
worth having
vinyl.
though. It's. I think they're a hidden gem.
The vinyl also comes with a booklet, which a really nice booklet, and then also a poster.
Yep.
Not that it matters, because whenever I get posters, they stay right inside the records with the stuff. So
they're so dominant live, man. It's not even. It's like, did you guys? But one more thing before we get into the topic, did you guys see the Hell's Heroes 6 lineup?
Yes. Holy smokes! Now, see, that's a lineup. I thought their lineup last year was a little. I'm not going to say weak, but not as strong as that year that you and I went.
Yeah.
Where we saw Razor and Hellstar and Bat and I don't know. Yeah, that lineup is Exciter. That lineup for next year is stacked.
Oh, Power Trip. Oh man.
Yeah.
So good. Haunt was there. Yeah. But man, this new lineup, holy shit. Sodom.
Candlemass.
Yes.
Witch Hazel's playing too, huh?
Oh man, it's gonna be awesome. I am unfortunately not gonna be there. But oh my gosh, it looks great. I kind of want to drive down just to try to meet up with a couple of friends of the show, and maybe hit up one day, not go to the show, but maybe go down for one day and see if I couldn't catch, Billy D and somebody. Because
the thing is Sodom never tours. I don't know that they've ever actually toured the States. They played some shows here and there. So this is a rare opportunity to see a killer band.
And I'm a little bummed. I might have to figure out something, but you can only buy a ticket for all 3 days. So I might figure out what kind of magic I can work. But yeah, we'll see. But anyway, Hell's Heroes 6, stellar freaking lineup. Queensryche is going to be doing a set from the EP and the first album. Doro is doing a Warlock set. I mean, it's gonna be great, dude.
Hey, you mentioned Power Trip earlier. They just released a live in Seattle, and it's on multiple different colors of vinyl or whatever. I got a purple one, and it's a good set. It's captures the year of that tour pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, so you need to look for that. But it just did come out. I had it on on a download, but then someone put it out on, I think Southern Lord put it out on vinyl. So look for that too. But yeah, that's a stacked lineup for sure.
It is.
We lost
there him. He goes right on cue.
I thought they fixed his internet problems.
I don't know anybody that's had good luck with that particular AT&T package, but he might be a good gillionaire. But like I said, he's living like a pauper at this point when it comes to that. But I guess we could just get up.
By the way, guess who has 2 trucks parked in front of my house right now? Yeah,
I hope they're working on your internet.
Yeah, a bunch of us got together, and boy, yeah, they're out there. But anyway, so I'm sorry I missed that for a second. So did it lose all of us, or does it just lose me? Because you guys
just you,
just
right?
you.
Okay. So yeah, that may happen again, and if it goes down for a while, I'll just catch you next time. But we wanted to get into, and I hope I'm not making an awkward transition because I didn't hear what you guys said. Last night I texted the boys and I said, hey, what do you think about talking about the music that our parents listen to? So my bingo card is ready. Carcass was in. Scott, you were not so convinced. How come?
Talking about your parents listen?
Yeah, because you had a very odd observation in the text that you sent me. You said your mom doesn't really listen to music?
She doesn't care about music at all. I mean, if the radio's on, it's on, and that's about it.
Wow, and just never cared about music?
Nope.
Wow.
Her kid sure does, though.
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah, my dad, and I have a couple stories about my dad. I pulled a couple things, but I mean, he mostly listened to opera, which I didn't. I hated opera. I can't stand it to this day. And that's what he listened to. So it's classical sometimes, but yeah. So we never jived musically. He hated my music.
Oh, really? I never had that issue in my house. Get your bingo card out.
Oh, my bingo card is ready. Well, Scott, why don't you start us off and just tell us kind of. So your dad was mostly into opera. Did he branch out at all? It was just there was never any.
So when he was younger, he was into rock and roll for him, which was stuff like the Beach Boys, and he also liked some of the softer rock stuff, like what's that? I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Totally went brain dead. Anyhow, don't matter.
Like Bread and
this is Dave Clark 5. But no, what I was thinking of was who does Time in a Bottle?
Gordon Lightfoot?
No, that's not right either.
Or
anyhow, I don't know. But anyhow, so this is one of the records out of his collection as a kid. But he really wasn't into this stuff. He really started getting into classical music once the Beatles started becoming big. He just kind of checked out. Anyhow,
okay,
that's it, Jim Croce. So, but yeah, anyhow, this is the only record I have from his collection. Everything else is gone. But he had original Beach Boys stuff, and but he never listened to it ever. All I ever listened to was classical and mostly opera and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't my thing. So, but anyhow, I still love this record to this day because he would let me play it when I was a kid on his turntable. And I even have bought this just got re-released on vinyl, remastered, and all that kind of fun stuff.
That was a record store day, wasn't it?
I don't know. I just know I grabbed it when I found out it was coming out. So a nice clean player copy. The covers are totally different too.
Oh yeah, they are a little different, huh?
So this cover, this is the cover. I mean, it's still a little different than the one that was popular, but this picture was the popular picture. But when the album first came out, that was the photo that was on there. These guys had a lot of hits, and everybody's covered them.
Yeah.
So man, Glad All Over and Bits and Pieces were probably the two big ones on this one.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
I'm feeling Glad All Over. TT Quick did that, the cover of that one.
I think Carcass is probably going to have the most to say. So I'll say a few things real quick. And man, the comments are lighting up. I really was afraid that nobody was going to give a crap about this, but my earliest musical memories from my parents, and I gave away my dad's record collection. That's a long story, but I remember there was an Elvis gospel record that had that lenticular cover or a picture of him in front of a chapel or something. They were huge. He and my mom were huge into the Carpenters. Good night. I've heard so many Carpenters songs and albums over the years, mostly 8 tracks. I will never forget. He had, God, so much Carpenters. He had a blue 8-track that we played in our Volkswagen van of Little Richard. And every time Little Richard would go, ow, on the thing, he'd reach over and pinch me, you know? And so, but as rowdy as he had tons of Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard. Charlie Daniels Band was a huge player. And I liked that because that was more Southern rock to me than country as I was learning to figure all that out. Those were rock albums to me. So I still love the Charlie Daniels Band. Even got to see him a few years ago. But man, the rowdiest he ever really got with music that I can remember outside of Little Richard was he had a Beatles record. He just had one, and it was Beatles 65, and I still have it. It's around the corner hanging on the wall, and that's the only one that survived his collection outside of the Smothers Brothers record, which were a comedy duo. They sang folk songs and told jokes, and I've still got all those, and they're a treasure to me. But the Beatles 65 record is the one that he had growing up, like I said, when I was growing up. But it's the one that our dog chewed the corner off the cover. So it means
that makes it special.
That, you know, I've got that one. And then the absolute rowdiest thing that he had was Creedence Clearwater Revival Chronicle. I know. And I still love that compilation to this day because I just bought it on CD recently. It means a lot to me, but I feel like a moron for getting rid of those, getting rid of his records. Good gosh. Well, take it away, Carcass, and I'm going to go through some of these. Comments, guys. Thanks for watching too, everybody, by the way.
As most people know, I've said this a million times, but my parents are uber conservative. My mother was a classically trained pianist, and was playing organ at her church when she was 9, and playing in a jazz combo, Ralph and the Gloom Chasers, when she was 11. My grandfather used to have to accompany her, of course, because they were playing bars and pubs and basement parties and so forth. But she could improvise at age 11, like a Chick Corea style of things. And I remember as a youth, she would hire herself out for funerals and weddings and bar mitzvahs. And I learned to read music by turning pages for her. Now, I realize that I was probably there for her mental protection, so to speak, that she wasn't there just by herself in a crowd full of people that she didn't know. But so my upbringing basically was classical music. And we had tons and tons of Vladimir Horowitz and lots of Rachmaninoff and Beethoven. And she loved Luciano Pavarotti. I took her to see Pavarotti once, who's probably the greatest opera singer ever. Sorry, Scott. But it was.
There's no doubt that's a talented style of music.
He was unbelievable. I mean, and the effortless approach to singing, and it was really fantastic. But I will tell you that the first time I ever used a turntable, this is the record that I put on. and I have it to this day. It's a Priesty and La Jolla. It's Baroque guitar for 2 guitars, or Baroque music for 2 guitars. I can still spin this. I remember laying under the piano as a 6-year-old, listening to this thing on one of those big box console stereos that had the 2 speakers that faced out.
Yep.
And then it had the 8-track,
exactly what my parents had.
receiver and the turntable and this really fine piece of maple furniture.
Yep.
So that was the first one. And then, of course, she said, well, if you like that one, John, you should listen to this one. So this is the companion piece to that. But I still to this day can listen to those. And when I'm really having a bad day, I put those, and these are the same records that I played when I was a young man several years ago, and they still have the same calming effect. It puts my brain in another place. Now, the beauty of having a mother that is so widely educated in music is that she was a little more lenient than my father. But as far as what we listened to in the home, I mean, yes, we had a stack of Mormon Tabernacle Choir records. We had lots and lots and lots of classical. But as I thought about this subject, I thought maybe, because my sisters, I had 4 younger sisters and no brothers. So I know a lot of people say, yeah, I got my records from my big brother. Well, I was getting nothing from my sisters because they were listening to the Partridge Family and David Cassidy and what is it, Bobby Sherman, the stuff like that, and Carpenters. I couldn't take it.
Are they older or younger than you?
They're all younger. All my sisters are younger. And so I never really shared anything with them. But maybe because of that, I was always looking for something a little more rowdy and a little more heavy. And you'd mentioned Little Richard. I thought that was like the heaviest stuff I'd ever heard. And because it was driving and it had a ton of loud rhythm to it. And so because we kind of grew up in the South, I went to junior high and high school in Alabama. I was surrounded with funk and blues and that type of thing. And that really kind of got me moving towards something with a little more kick to it. I was listening to, I was fortunate enough to see Parliament and Bootsy Collins and George Clinton back in the 70s, even though I was asked to exit stage left because they feared for my safety. It was a different time back then, where mixing of races and genres of music just didn't happen. And I'm living in Alabama, of all places. And in fact, I don't know if my brother-in-law, JT Sullivan, will pop on, but he and I had some rather wild experiences, because he kind of liked the funk thing too. But my mother, I was always looking for that music that could bridge the gap between classical, which was very accepted in our home, and rock and roll. So when bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and Starcastle and even Kansas to some extent, I could sell them on the fact that, hey, they've got violins just like classical music.
Right.
Hey, they've got keyboards and piano just like classical music.
That's funny.
My mother, once again, was very open-minded to at least listening and allowing, and more so than my father was. My father was very strict, but not unreasonable. So anyway, the long and the short of it is, and I've got stories about our, here's one for your bingo card, our family appreciation, our music appreciation night, the first Monday of every month.
Bingo!
We'd have our family gathering and we would listen to, each one of us would pull out a record. Sometimes I got lucky and I hit the lotto with ELP or something like that. But my luck generally started to change when the more records I had, the more chances I had of him pulling Black Sabbath or Kiss, Dressed to Kill, or something like that. And of course the conversation was extreme after that. But
yeah, the ladies in waiting conversation that you've told a couple times is really funny about him reading the lyrics to the family.
And if you know my father, and some of you out there do, he's a peach of a guy. He really is. And funny thing is, I have an uncle that's just I think he's 10 or 12 years older than I am, but he had a vast collection of Deep Purple and Pink Floyd and Uriah Heep and so forth. And when I was a freshman in college, I went to school out there where they lived, and he would loan me his car frequently, and I would get in his car or truck, and there would be 8-tracks, boxes and boxes of 8-tracks. And I sometimes would forget why I was even borrowing the truck, and I would just be driving around jamming out Easy Living by Uriah Heep, or or some Zeppelin 4 or whatever. And so it was a very different, it was just a very different upbringing. And I know that some guys, when I lived in Alabama, we always would ride our bikes. We'd buy a record, and then we'd ride our bikes over to a guy his name was Steve Hokinga. I don't know why I can remember, but his nickname was Caveman. And he looked kind of like a caveman, but he had long hair and kind of sharp features and whatever. But his dad had the system from hell. I mean, this thing was a massive Pioneer system, big Pioneer speakers, EQ. We thought we were in a studio somewhere, and we would sit in a semicircle around this gigantic stereo, and we would play our records, and then we would basically, like we're doing now, we'd shoot the breeze about, well, do we flip it over and play side B, or is it even worth it, or should we just move on to Styx or Foghat or something else? And so, but we would always talk about, Steve's dad was a heavy metal rock and roller. He was ahead of our time, or ahead of his time, I guess, because I got quite an education from his father's collection with some of the proto metal stuff that we had talked about from the early 60s.
Right.
And bear in mind, this was the mid 70s, but anyway, in my house, yeah, it was, it was a different story, different time.
I just remember a million spins of my dad's records, on Saturday morning while we were cleaning the house or whatever we were doing. But gosh, I don't know how we didn't wear out Willie Nelson. There was so much Willie Nelson played. And so I have an appreciation for Willie because of that. It's not my thing, but I have an appreciation for that and Waylon Jennings and stuff. And I know a lot of those songs. But I remember always wanting the rock and roll stuff. And then when he would play the Beatles, I would dig that because it was a little louder. But my gosh, man, like I mentioned before, the Charlie Daniels Band, he had an album called Fire on the Mountain. And there's a song on there called Caballo Diablo. And I was hearing twin guitar leads, and I didn't really know. I just knew it sounded cool. It was upbeat. But I'm looking at these dudes in cowboy hats with feather hat bands, and I'm thinking, man, this sounds like rock to me, And then I learned that Southern rock was actually a thing. But my gosh, it was such an impact on me, those records that he had, because I don't recall them listening to the radio. I just have no memory of them listening to the radio at all. The only thing, and I'll tell this story on myself. So, and I may have told it on the show before, I was playing a Kiss record one time. This was years later, Detroit Rock City. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing coming out of the speakers. And it must have been sometime into my development of loving Kiss. I must have known because I was up on the arm of the couch pretending to be whoever in Kiss. And I jumped down and the needle popped off the record and it went boom and blew the tweeters out of my dad's speakers. And the reason that I know, at that time, he wasn't listening to a ton of music, and I got away with this for years and years because all I remember him listening to when I got up into high school and right out of high school was AM radio. So he had no idea that the tweeters were blown. So I come home with my ex-wife one time. We'd been married a year or two and came home for dinner one night. We're all sitting around the dinner table and we get to talking about the stereo. And she starts talking about the time I blew out my dad's speakers. And he didn't know this. Yeah. So I'm getting busted by my ex-wife for blowing out my dad's speakers. And he goes in there and he puts on some music and he starts tweaking stuff. And he's like, sure enough. So the next weekend I brought him a pair of speakers from where I was stationed over in Fort Worth. But the impact that their music had on me was tremendous, even though it's not a ton of the stuff I like, because it got me to listening to the radio and finding other things. So I'm super thankful for that. Man, lots of comments.
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, let's be real. Classical music, you might find it boring, but my mother, being highly educated, and she had a master's in music and in teaching, and I learned music from the inside out. And classical music is a foundation for pretty much what we're listening to today. And especially as we gravitated into the blues, metal is based in the blues. I mean, let's go to, Witchfinder General, Black Sabbath, Blue Cheer, all those, as we've discussed before here on the show. And so I was always looking for something faster and heavier and something based in the blues. But I can remember specifically someone coming, when I bought my first stereo, I think it was one of those 3-in-1 sound design, had the cassette tape, had the 8-track. No, it was a 4-in-1 sound, 8-track, cassette, AM, FM radio, and a turntable and 2 speakers. Someone brought over Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and we jammed that thing out, and I freaked out. I said, this is what I've been looking for. This has the heaviness of a Beethoven symphony, and it has the speed and technical prowess of some of the great jazz guys that I'd heard. And so because of that, listening to just classical music or whatever, or jazz, I now had a new appreciation for what these dudes were doing.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I remember moving the speakers into my sister's room, the 2 older sisters. The 2 younger ones were in a room and the 2 older ones were in a room. And I moved both speakers in and played War Pigs as loud as I could off that Paranoid record and shimmied the door closed so they couldn't get out. It was, I was being a good big brother then, I guess. But
that's funny.
But anyway.
So Reese, I want to talk about your comments, Reese. The whole devil thing in rock, I think my answer to that would be the whole devil thing in rock, it's just about, something dark and scary and all that.
And rebellious.
It always has
Rebellion,
been. But the comment here to see the kids throwing the devil horn sign and all that, thinking it's about music. I totally understand your point. However, this
is about music.
This came up because in Ronnie James Dio's house, I can't remember what his
was his grandmother
background.
Yeah.
But this is a sign called a Maloik. It was not originally devil horns. It was a Maloik, and it was a sign that, oh my gosh, I'm going to say it wrong, but I don't know if it was some sort of a.
It was to ward off evil.
Yeah, it was to ward off evil, but I don't remember what his nationality was or what his background was.
He was Italian.
Anyway,
Italian.
That the Maloik was to ward off evil spirits. So Dio started doing that, and people picked it up, and then it went like this, and people turned it into devil horns and all that shit. But
Gene Simmons was doing it too in the 70s, but he was doing it a little different.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, with the I love you. Basically.
No, he was doing this too, but what he was doing is he was playing with a pick, so he'd hold the pick. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and funny story.
When you're holding a pick, it's hard to wave.
And even funnier story, when I was in Europe in 2006, they had pictures of George Bush in the paper doing this. because he was at a Texas Longhorns football game,
Right.
and he was throwing the horns, and they're like, "American president, satanic?" ? And I just thought,
yeah,
it's just like even the media over there can't seem to get it right.
and now
Yeah, he
I
was
don't
just
even think. Okay,
Symbols have different meanings. One symbol can have multiple meanings. More than one thing can be true at a time.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
getting to
it's
it.
well, if you come to a UNM Lobos game, everybody's going to be doing this. Let's go Lobos, because it's supposed to look like the Lobo. You know, this whole thing.
2 L's.
Yep.
Anyhow,
So this,
so
I disagree respectfully, because now this is just metal. Nobody's worshiping the devil. I've been to so many shows over the years, and this is just, hey man, we're here, metal. Plus, if putting your hands in some dumb configuration, I mean, it's just hand signals, or I mean,
it's a symbol, and again,
Yeah.
symbols can mean more than one thing.
yeah. It's just
And it
not.
and depending on what country you're in, it can mean a whole nother thing too. So it's. But getting back to our stories of
again,
family and whatnot.
Yeah.
I did want to say that how I started collecting music was my like I said, my mom didn't really care about music, but she would just play the whatever was on the radio at the time. And I remember I used to love this song called "Rich Girl" by Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yep. It was my first 45, and it was all downhill after that. So they gave it to me actually as an Easter. They had Easter basket as a kid, and they had that 7-inch in the Easter basket for me. So yeah, like I said,
well, and my mom had a huge collection of records. She had 400 or 500 records, because I remember being in the military. We were moving like every 6 to 18 months at the beginning, and I remember specifically being in charge of boxing up those records, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them. So the fact that I have hundreds and hundreds of them, or maybe thousands and thousands of them, I'm sure that's part of the influence that I got, because my mother always wanted that reference point at her fingertips, and when something struck her and she said, "Oh, you know what? I want to listen to that." Well, she had it right there. It's not like today where we have Spotify, right, Rob? And or Pandora or any of these other streaming services. We had physical copies. And so I still kind of cling to that a little bit, although I understand that streaming doesn't take up hardly any space in your house. And you can still have, like, I downloaded a USB of 2,000 songs for a friend at work. And I said, "You're holding in your hand 2,000." And he said, "I wonder how many CDs or how many CD boxes that has saved me." Well, it saves you hundreds, because it's all right here in the palm of your hand. But that's another thing. That was another influence of my parents, is that they had an elaborate collection of these things.
Well, we've gotten a little off topic here in the comments, but I am not going to let this go. First of all, I'm not an idiot. Yes, I do think I know rock. And also, devil worship is not incorporated and embedded into all rock music. I think you're making a blanket statement. I think 99% of people don't give two shits about Satanism, or maybe any religion for that matter. And also, to address this, I didn't bring up the hand gestures. You did. I don't give a shit what people are throwing up in a hand gesture. It didn't hurt me at all. I couldn't care less. So, and if you think it's devil music, Reese, I love you. I'm so glad you're here, but maybe this isn't the place for you, because we talk about devil music every week. So, I don't want to piss you off, but I just disagree. But I'm glad you're here. Let's see here. We could talk about, don't even get me started. Oh, here we go. Gosh, it just keeps getting better. Hang on.
Anyhow.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, now let's show her comments. She can say what she wants. I'm
So-
assuming she. I apologize.
Also, around 1976 or so, I had a cousin, much older cousin. She had literally had kids that were older than me, but she was my mom's cousin. So she had one of those cool vans. You remember back in the 70s, everybody had the cool vans and with the little teardrop mirrors in the back and
No,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
plush seats. And yeah, she had one of those with an 8-track player in it. And there would be times my mom would take me up to and we'd have to stay there for a week, or we'd stay there for a few days. Every time my cousin was like, I gotta go to the store, I'd be like, I want to go, because inside that van she had an 8-track player and she had Aerosmith's Rocks in there, and I couldn't wait to play that record.
Yeah.
I played all the time. So I got a lot of my music from influence from those guys too. Even though my parents were never into it, I had a lot of other family that were into music.
Well, once again, I think I told you that my mother would actually sit down with me and listen to whatever I wanted, rock, hard rock, jazz, fusion, whatever. And but the one thing she couldn't do is she couldn't listen to the music in the car while she was driving. Her mind is so analytical that as she would drive, she would start to separate all the parts and the tuning. And in fact, you're speaking of the Creedence Clearwater Revival, the Chronicles thing. I remember specifically, she took me to school. We're listening to Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I'm leaning forward, tying my shoes, and I hear thump, 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 thump on the side of the car. And I thought, what in the world is going on? And I looked up, and my mother had turned and was focused on the radio, breaking the music down, and she was whacking mailboxes as we went down the street because she was so focused on the music. So as I went and apologized to the 6 neighbors that we had destroyed their mailbox with our car mirror, she said that the one thing that bothered her about rock music is that things were out of tune and things were right, they weren't the right pentameter, and she took such an analytical approach to it that's why I think I have an interest in certain things more so than others, because like Ozric Tentacles, for example, it's so intricate and there's so many things going on and they're intertwined that it feels appealing to me. And so once again, that's not what that's not what she would listen to. I bet she would listen to it. You know what? The next time I see my mom, I'm gonna introduce her to Ozric Tentacles and see what she says. But Creedence Clearwater Revival, no sir. She was busting that thing. Why is the bass not tuned to the same key as the guitar? Why is he singing like that? It doesn't sound right. The pentameter's off. The drums are slow. Blah blah. And she would but that was her approach. And so she had to sit and make the commitment to listening to music, kind of like listening to a record. I think that's a serious commitment rather than just pop it on your iPod and off you go somewhere. So I take that influence from her.
Whatever,
Yeah.
snowflake.
What? You're calling me a stuff? Okay.
No, that we got that comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh boy.
We
What are
have
we looking at?
we
That
seem
was
to have
fun.
a heckler. We seem to have a heckler. So
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we've never actually had that
Heckling.
before. It's kind of whatever. It's all good. Say what you want to say. I'm
To
not.
each their own. They say, well, okay, if you want to get religious, Paul says that the spiritual man cannot be offended. So there you have it. If you're offended, then you can take that to the bank. Know your religion.
The commenters, they can.
just ignore them, please.
Doesn't make me mad. I'm not bothered at
Don't
all.
make me mad, but don't give them any time of day. They're just doing it to annoy people, which is sad.
Oh well.
Anyhow, but hey, I never could find a point where my dad and I could both like something. I'd be up in my room playing my Ted Nugent record or my Judas Priest record, and he would be banging to turn it down, and eventually he would just go over and shut the what do you call it, the electricity off to my room, because he was down in the basement in his study, and the boxes were nearby, which always ticked me off because it was a record, and I'd yell at him anyhow. anyhow, but I did find that he liked Phil Kagi. So him and I, especially when I was in college, and he would come pick me up in college in the early years. We had like a 7-hour drive home, so there was not much in common. But we found a mutual love for Phil Kagi's, especially his instrumental stuff. So this album in particular, The Master and the Musician, to this day is one of my favorites. I listen to quite a bit. And then Wind in the Wheat and Beyond Nature. I kind of wish I would have known about the band, his earlier band, Glass Harp, back then when my dad was alive, but I didn't know that band because I think he might have enjoyed that as well. But that late '60s progressive rock band with Phil Kagi was part of.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do with this, man. We're just having some fun, and now it's like
I know.
It's like the crying baby. It's like you're like, you can just take them out.
Shit, if Satanism is embedded in rock music culture,
it's embedded in everything. You want to get right down to it. It's embedded in everything. That's why you
do what you want and believe.
That's why you fortify yourself. Jeez.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Nobody's questioning any of this.
See what you did today, Rob?
Gary, and you also love the Eagles, and you're still here, and I haven't blocked your ass. So we've never blocked or censored anybody in the history of the show, and we're not going to start now.
Nope, we sure aren't.
Right on.
It was Elvis. Oh God, here we go. You know what? That's it. Maybe we should start. Elvis is a pedophile. Elvis is dead, so he's not here to defend himself. And you know what? Because of Elvis, we have heavy metal. You can thank him for that. He got the blues popular with the white man. Let's be real. If you want to be real, let's be real. He got heavy metal pop. He got the blues popular with the white population, who buy all the records, by the way. And guess what? Black Sabbath, the grandfathers of heavy metal, we're a blues-based band. Woohoo! Thanks, Elvis. Yep.
Right.
Pedophile. Good Lord. Anyway, never mind. I'm
here to freak out about music, man.
I don't know who's butthurt about anything, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not mad at all.
Neither am I. I'm laughing, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is she or he, I don't know, Reese M claims not to be religious, but sure is acting so.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, we're getting into pedophilia and Satanism. Yeah, I'm
thanks a lot. And it wasn't even Rob's fault. I thought he'd be the one that would start that topic.
Yeah, whatever.
He's our designated off the reservation guy.
I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the comments, man. I don't even need to say anything.
I like that comment, Jay.
Everybody's entertaining themselves.
See, we're supposed to be tolerant of everybody. Judge ye not that ye be not judged, for with that judgment. Do I have to do that?
Yep.
Anyway.
Go for it.
Oh, wait, they're not religious.
Didn't you say that you weren't religious in the comments?
Yes, she did, or he did. I don't know.
I don't care.
I don't know why.
So what are you? If you're not religious, what are you? Are you agnostic? Are you just?
It doesn't matter. We are not getting into religion.
A rabble rouser?
Talk religion and politics on the show. No.
Wait, you don't want to talk about Trump?
You jackwagon.
Yeah.
Who gives a flying poop? Well, people think. Well,
yes, Reese M said
a flying poop.
At 4:37, Reese M said, "I'm not even religious, and I find it disgusting to see kids throwing the devil horns."
Yeah, go to the nicer world.
I want a nicer world too, Reese. Jeez. I do. I live in a nicer world. You know why? Because I make it so.
Yeah, I try to do the same thing.
Shakespeare would say, "I don't muddle my mind with the thick of thin things."
We can make it a nicer world just by being pleasant to people, which is what I constantly try to do. Can't say I'm always successful, but simple things. You know what? Let the car out in front of you. Wave at somebody good morning. Like I was in the gym taking a class today, and after class, everybody's got to get the little wipes and wipe down their stations. So I walked out to the wipes and just and pulled out a whole bunch of wipes and handed everybody wipes, just because save time, and you just be nice to people. That'll make a nicer world. What do you think of that? Is that religious?
Wow. Okay. That's it. Okay. The first time in the history of the channel, I have the power to do this, and I'm going to do it. But I ain't mad at you, man. I just don't need this.
Did you ban Reese?
Reese was
Wait,
banned.
she said I was a good man.
And their comments were removed. Well, that's the thing. She started name calling, said you were a good man, and that was the end. I've had enough.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Jeez.
Gosh, that was like, wow, what the hell? We got trolled, whatever, man. It's all good. And I'm really not mad. I really wasn't even that butthurt.
And they weren't even like those Russian bots. Remember those early on in the show, those Russian bots that were sending us like lewd videos and so forth.
I do think the Maloik was where that all came from. I think that I gave from a rock and roll and heavy metal person's understanding. That's what I've always understood was the history of where that came from. Maybe I'm wrong. Whatever, man. It's cool.
Well, here's the thing. See, we all have children, right? Each one of us, we all have kids. So our parents were an influence to us, but I remember having this discussion with my kids about music. In fact, I remember my daughter specifically, Carcass Spawn, my daughter specifically asking me if Forbidden had a different album besides Twisted into Form. And of course, as a heavy metal parent, I was excited about that. I thought that was pretty cool. But I was always one to be very open and more of a guiding force. And, people are going to make their decision kind of like I've heard this, and I don't want to get into parenting or whatever, but we're talking about what our parents listen to, and this is how we're influenced. I have no doubt that how we were raised is a direct effect on how we raise ours and how they are going to raise theirs. It's a trickle down. Trickle down does work. But I've always been a little more open and a little more understanding of people, because I think that's the way you should be. And if that, to my mother's credit, I know she didn't really like Deep Purple, but she could pick out the fact that John Lord and Ritchie Blackmore, she knew they were classically trained musicians because of the way they were able to.
That's two.
What?
Classically trained musicians.
Oh, classically trained musicians, because she knew how the way they played, and she could hear their understanding of music. So I learned from that, and that's how I kind of approach I approach music. Like someone had said earlier, music is like a integral part of all of our lives. If we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it if it weren't an integral part of our life. But some of those music spawns memories. Music soothes the savage beast. Music helps us focus and concentrate. Music helps us be happy. I listened to Angel by Aerosmith today, and it just about brought me to tears because it reminds me of the Queen. And it's like that's one of her favorite songs. And when we do karaoke, I hear songs on the radio because this person has the ability to sing every lyric of every 80s pop song that ever played on the radio. But that's one of her favorite tunes. And in turn, so say what you want about what's embedded in rock and roll, et cetera. But man, like I said, we're all here just to have some fun, man.
Yeah, it's just, for me, it's just, if you really want to boil it down, I'm just doing the same thing that my parents were doing. I'm just escaping, man. I'm just escaping. I'm just having fun listening to music. All right, that she did.
And if my escape includes insect warfare,
a little bit, I admit it.
If my escape includes insect warfare or Ozric Tentacles or Luciano Pavarotti, it doesn't matter. That's my escape. Have your own escape.
Well, you're obviously the only one here with a conscience or any kind of morals.
I guess so. Just because I quoted Bible verses. Anyway.
Oh man, that was fun.
That was, and we've already hit an hour. Good grief.
Yep. That was good. I didn't think that would be. I honestly didn't know if we'd get a whole lot of a topic out of that, but I'm really pleased. And so I'm going to gush for a second here at the end of the show, and obviously you guys can say whatever. I'm in no hurry to hang it up, but I just want to say I'm going to scroll through the comments very quickly. I'm not going to read the comments. Tony Clem, thank you for being here. Mark Fields, thank you for being here. Scotty Adams, that's a new name I don't recognize. Thank you for being here. I'm curious where you're from. Brian McFadden, thank you for being here. This rules. Shamgar75, it's good to see you. Casey Lanier, we've seen you recently. Metal Overkill is still here. This is awesome. Frazier the King. I guess we can't name call because we got to call Frazier the King. It's great. Gary's always here. I'm so thankful for all of you that watch the show and hang out with our dumbasses and give me shit about the Cowboys. And, you know, it's great. This was a cool show. Mark Chaos Massacre from Down Under, I believe.
No baloney Anzalone.
Yeah, man. It's just great. Richie's here. He punched me in the stomach in first grade. Asshole.
Gary Ireton?
Oh, yeah. Name called. I apologize. But no, man, I just love getting on here with my buddies and freaking out about metal. Mark Fields and I have talked about that. The line of the show was when Mark dropped Anal Stab Wound when we were talking about bands that our mothers liked. And then there was one that I don't believe Mark posted, oh, my mom likes deicide these days. I just don't believe that.
I don't believe that either.
Oh, but, and she didn't have anything to say about Bill Cosby.
But it's funny.
Nobody said anything about Bill.
I know, and I was going to say I had a house full of records of Bill Cosby records because he used to be, he was funny at the time.
He was very funny.
But that's people just
funny. It's just, you know, you find out that shit and it kind of taints it all. But yeah, the stuff was funny.
Look, you've said Anal Stab Wound, you've said taint, you've said, geez, Louise, Rob, you're taking the show to a different depth.
Oh, this is great. Well, there's new comments now. That was funny, and I enjoyed you guys. Oh, and I was looking for a link too. I was trying so hard to find something, but I couldn't find anything. Gary loves Jesus and rock and roll. Well, I don't know, man. You might go to hell for that. Be careful.
I don't know.
Obviously, I'm kidding you, Gary. I'm kidding. You know I love you. Hang on. I scrolled too far, and now I'm getting back to the and I feel bad that I blocked somebody. We've never done that. Let's see. I scrolled too far back.
Oh, Grego
I'm totally distracted now.
Grego M is from Saugus, Massachusetts.
Kind of late. Oh, here we go. It's not talking about Christian music only. One of these someday down the road.
Are you sure we haven't talked about Christian music only?
We will. No, we never have.
No.
Someday we will talk about Christian music. We will talk about satanic black metal. We will talk about whatever, you know. Yeah, it's cool. We can do all that. I just don't want to get into religion or politics. That's the only thing. I don't want to do any of that. Episode physical copies of music. Yeah, that's a good one. I think we did that once before, but yes. I'm reading the comments and I'm not posting them. Sorry. I think we bored Scott.
Providence, Rhode Island, Brockington,
Melbourne. Oh, dude, you're in the same city. You're down there with Stone Trip, dude.
Yeah.
You need to go see them.
I don't think he'll be opening. I don't think any of his bands will open for Stone Trip, though.
That's awesome. Really?
Mom
likes deicide. That rules.
Yeah,
That's
Mark is a little heavier than Stone Trip. Just a tad. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Wow. Okay. Oh. I love Gary.
This is an oddball episode. I'll tell you what.
Well, this is we've
Went
hit
off the rails a bit. That's for
we've
sure.
hit the mother load of unusual. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm just reading. Yeah, now I'm just totally distracted reading comments. But hey, if you know anything about our show, that's how it goes. We get distracted. We get off topic.
Now, what do we tell people? It's unedited, unscripted, and unrehearsed, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
but,
and unblocked until today.
Well, we never said unblocked. You keep it clean, man. Did. Keep it clean here. And when I say clean, I mean I'm talking about be nice.
Yeah, I always thought Secret Agent Man had some metal guitar.
Kick-ass show.
Hey, speaking of which, I agree with that statement. You know why? Because I noticed that a lot of the heavy metal guitar, and I'm thinking of Toxic Holocaust, Merciless Death, some of those bands, they have like a surf guitar setup.
Yep.
And I hear it in that. Even the old Sodom used to have kind of that same twangy whatever. So yes, Secret Agent Man, that is a heavy metal song right there.
I never thought of that, taking a surf rock song and putting a distortion pedal on it.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Think about it.
I think the show died about 7 minutes ago. Just completely. This is probably the single biggest brick wall we have ever hit in the
history. It flatlined.
Except for when you said multi-pussy.
I did not say that. I said multiplicity. And I went back and listened. No, I went back and I listened to it. And I might have slurred my speech a little bit.
Rusty can tell us. Charles can tell it. He knows the exact second of what episode. Anyway. Yeah. Well, anyhow, wow. So
let's get out of here while we still have some of our dignity left.
Rob, I got some news for you that you may not know. Did you know that if you don't have the original master tapes, it's not remastered? I just thought you didn't know that.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
We had a conversation today. We had another person trolling us on something else, talking about what remastering is and what, it has to be this and it has to be that. And
if it's not the original master tapes, it's not remastered.
It wasn't somebody from the Striper camp, was it?
Which is,
no, it was not.
Arguing semantics at some point, but it's just.
I mean, pretty much since the 90s, most music has been recorded digitally.
Right.
So you're going to take those digital files and remaster them.
Correct.
There is no original master tapes because there was no tapes.
Hey, Gary, on the subject of music, yes, the new Live Evil remastered is really awesome.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a few tracks off of it on Spotify as it's come down through, different playlists that, they'll give you daily mixes and whatever. And I've been listening to those and I've heard a few songs off that. I thought it was great. Straight to reels anymore.
So in closing, just FYI, if anybody wants a metal roundtable sticker or a Carcass John sticker, I have both kinds. I have the Far Beyond Drawing sticker and the Alien sticker. Just hit me up and I will send one to you. Give me your address or whatever. Hit me up on Instagram at Carcass John Art. And I got a new batch coming, and I know Scott's got stickers, and I know Rob's got swag, and so
I'm about out because I include it in anything I send out. I
love that sticker, man.
eBay packages, promo.
I just got a new pack of them, so
yeah. I ordered more hologram metal roundtable stickers today.
If anybody wants a metal roundtable shirt, you can get one of those too at Anchor Merchandising.
Yep,
you sure can. AnchorMerchandising.com. Search up the metal roundtable.
We are breaking bank because we've already sold like 4 or 5 shirts.
4 or 5? Are you kidding me?
We've sold it. We've made at least $12 in sales.
Well, I thought at that rate, I thought the rate we're selling shirts, it would take about 12 years in order for you to pay me back for the design. But now at this rate, it may only be 9 to 11 years.
Right. Right. So I want to answer Brian's question before we get off of here. Does anyone still record straight to reels? It is so few and far between. And even if they do, they're probably still transferring it for backup. And they're more than likely, in my experience, bouncing it down to digital for mastering or whatever. You're going to end up in a digital domain listening to it anyway.
The last place I knew that did that was where War Master recorded, and I know PLF and Oath of Cruelty had recorded down in Houston. It was in Spring, Texas. It was one of the few places that had 2-inch tape, and now they don't. And I know that Pro Tools introduced a new feature where you could make your digital recording sound like it was done on 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
So give me a break.
Yeah, for the most part, people don't, but you still can. Yes, you absolutely. The studios are hard to find, and it's expensive. The tape is expensive. The transfers are expensive. It's hard.
It's harder to mix on them.
Yep.
It's just a lot more cost and doesn't give you necessarily better sound.
Yeah, the ease of digital recording to punch in, punch out, edit. Oh my gosh, the time savings is it's astronomical, the time savings. So,
and Gary asked that very question: is it advantageous? Is it worth it to record to tape and then dump it to digital? The one you can punch a button on Pro Tools and it makes it sound like you did it on tape.
Yeah, the stuff that I master, so much of it comes from cassette tapes, digital files, original transfers from old tapes.
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff. And man, you can make stuff sound pretty nice with all the tools that are available these days. I don't know anybody personally that is still using analog rack gear. Everybody's using digital rack gear and or just software. And I've got a combo platter.
It would be like asking me, hey, do you have a dark room and all that kind of stuff? No, I use Photoshop.
Right. Yeah.
and at some point we're not even gonna have people making music. It's gonna be AI. And yes,
already
awesome.
So.
I love verbal abuse, by the way. Not verbal abuse from Rob or you, but I like the band Verbal Abuse.
You get plenty of it from us, but
yes.
And in my opinion, we're so off topic and late, but you can absolutely make a Pink Floyd sounding record on digital gear, modern day, right now. Absolutely, you can do it.
And just ask Pink Floyd. A Momentary Lapse of Reason was a complete digital record.
It's mostly about the music and how it's presented and how it's recorded, not the medium. I love you all.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
I apologize to my co-hosts for getting distracted by the comments, but it was awesome.
I was way distracted, so you're fine.
So we had we have an extra lengthy episode because next week we're off, 4th of July.
And sincerely to the person that was blowing us up, I'm not mad. I just, man, you can think what you want. You're totally, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I love every one of you guys for being here, and gals, thank you so much. Ladies, I apologize. Can we say gal anymore?
I don't know.
People,
just say people, persons. They, them.
I think the PC term right now is birthing people.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen and metalheads of all ages, thank you so much for being here.
He just opened the whole
next
can.
Time for episode 184 of the Metal
Hang on.
Table.
Here.
I gotta get on here.
Signing us off. Until next time, metal will. Let's do it in all the ways. Oh,
Prevail.
Do we do this one too?
Can we do it like this? Because we love people. Do it like this.
Bye.